Well, hello everybody, and thank you for watching this video. Today we're going to be talking to Glenn Hoy, a friend of mine I've known for a while now, who's an expert in sales. And what we're doing is looking at different parts of the business, understanding them a little bit like different pieces of a chess set, and how you can do things a lot better, run things a lot more smoothly if you understand how each individual piece works. And so today, our aim really is to understand a little bit more about sales. Not all of us have a great understanding of it. So we're going to pick Glenn's brains here a bit and to hopefully help us to understand a bit more how a good sales team will work. So good morning, Glenn.
Joe, good morning. Hi, how are you? And thank you for that wonderful introduction.
All right, thank you for coming on. So Glenn, what does a sales team do?
Simply, a sales team will provide focus and consistency for your interactions with your clients and prospects. A bit of a wordy answer. It will mean that you look at sales on a regular and consistent basis. The focus and consistency are key words in sales.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, I think sometimes people might have a misconception about sales. I mean, we all kind of have our pictures mentally of the different departments in a business, finance and sales. And I think sales in particular is one that perhaps has drawn some misconceptions and misunderstandings over the years. So what have you come across that people have misunderstood about sales?
I think one of the most popular misconceptions is that a salesperson has to be aggressive. They have to be very verbose. They have to always be looking to close the sale. And I get that and I understand that. That's because a lot of salespeople or people involved in the relationship process through sales have been badly trained. There are no shortcuts. And if you take the shortcut to making a sale, you miss out on what I believe to be the most important aspect of that. And that's building that relationship that results in a sale. And they're very different. And there's two key types of sales. One is transactional, where you have to have some of those earlier traits in that. And I'll use example, for instance, of double glazing. So if you invite someone into your house to buy double glazing and they do all the work and they make a quote, what often happens is you leave that transactional sale and they go out the door and they don't go where they need to go. What happens then is they'll go and buy somewhere else. You've created a need. So, but most people that I work with and most people are in what I call relationship selling, which is it's not the value of that initial transaction, it's that relationship that builds over time. And then phrases like lifetime value come in. So somebody that might spend, say, £500 with you on a first transaction, if that works, that then becomes a relationship and they buy whatever you're selling 4 or 5 times a year, that's a £2,000 sale, they stay with you for 10 years. So it's appreciating that at the beginning, you might have to give a little bit more than you get. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's a misconception, Joe. Sadly, I think it is true. I think there are some very, very poor people out there trying to sell at you, and that's history.
For business people who don't feel that they are extrovert, that they're more introvert personalities, they at the beginning they might perhaps feel, well, I'm not a salesman, because their picture of a salesman is a confident person coming into the room, telling you what you're going to do, and carrying on until you get the sale, and they think, oh crumbs, I'm not like that, I'm not going to be able to sell my business.
Really good point, Joe. In my opinion, people are not good at building relationships, do fall into the trap of telling people what they want and need, as opposed to asking them questions, finding out what they actually really want and need, and then saying, I believe in this situation, my product, my services fit what you want and need from what we've just discussed. It's very much a two-way street. You have to identify a want or a need to be able to make a sale in relationship terms, not transactional terms. And that's why if we need to buy stuff, we'll go to a stuff shop, whether that's online or not online. So you don't need someone greeting you at the door of your major supermarket saying, hi Joe, welcome to supermarket A today. What sort of things are you looking at? That's an overkill.
Yeah.
However, if you are in a situation where you might be looking to have a bespoke made suit, then you would probably want to go to a tailor's who would advise you on all the different bits and bobs. And that's the key difference.
Yeah.
Relationships to me are key.
Oh, great. Thank you. So how do you see sales fitting into the structure, the structure here, which I suppose I've put across in the book, drawing on chess for business, and thinking about data gathering, analysis, strategy, planning, and action. How do you see sales fitting into that structure?
Joe, I think they're interdependent. I don't think one can exist without the other. I think if you sit with a pocket full or a desk full or a spreadsheet full of data and do nothing with it, then, however, if you, phrase I was trying to avoid, if you build sales campaigns based on gut reaction, then you'll fall down. So they are so crucial, because you need to do it. And so, for example, if I'm not sure if this would happen in a game of chess, I suspect it is. You would practice it, you would pilot it, you would make it work. You take a piece of your data, say you've got 100 pieces of data. You wouldn't do what you thought was the right thing to do with 100. You maybe do it with 25, and then you just. So I think they're interdependent, and they're so similar in terms of it's very much about process.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, testing can be important for chess as well. In that, if you've got an important tournament coming up and you want to change the way you're going to play, you might want to have a few friendlies with somebody first to test these ideas out to see if they're going to work. But at the same time, not reveal what you're doing to the competition. So it's finding ways of testing in a smaller scale, then scale it up to say that's going to be my main way forward. How you narrow down your expertise, how you know what works and what doesn't really.
Just give a very simple, you mentioned data, and a very simple data analogy is that if I had a list of clients and prospects on my database, I'd have them in two categories. I've had them as A, B, or C, which is I'm working with them, I have worked with them, and I want to work with them. And then I prioritize them in 1, 2, and 3. Absolute top priority, important. Then I could then start to say, well, let me look at A3 or C1, whatever it may well be. And again, I suggest that's what you're saying in chess is, if I made this move, what might that look like?
Yeah, great. Okay. So if we were to think about a sales strategy, that's something that we do hear about sometimes, and not everybody necessarily is going to know what that is. So for you, what might a sales strategy look like?
I suspect it's an end game. What do I want to achieve? And again, the analogy between business and chess is so apt. So what I want to achieve is let's look at new prospects. I want to generate this amount of business from this amount of people, from this amount of initial resource, i.e. customer data. Now the strategy is, that's what I want to do. And the tactics are, how am I going to do that? So the strategy is quite easy. The tactics are, well, I'm going to do A, B, and C, X, Y, and Z. That's what I'm going to do. So that's what I want to achieve. And that's why it's always, in my opinion, always really important to do that practicing, to do that testing, to speak to your customers, speak to your prospects, ask them what they like about what you're talking to them about, ask them what they don't like about what you will gain so much more if you've got effective communications as part of your effective relationships. People will tell you. So that strategy, now for me, the other key strategy is, once you've got them as a customer, i.e. that's someone that's bought something from you, is then having a proper strategy to continue to engage with them and turn them into clients. That's people that buy from you on a regular and repeat basis.
Yeah. So strategies are aiming to do something, aiming to change a situation, aren't they, really? So there's got to be some purpose in mind, and not just sort of keeping the business floating along isn't really sort of a sufficient purpose, really, is it?
No. And so if we go back to the first thing that we covered about, what does a sales team do for you? Well, if you just say to the sales team, here's Yellow Pages, for example, ring all these people and tell them what we do. That's not a strategy. In fact, that's an act of desperation. But if saying, well, actually, within Yellow Pages, if such a thing still exists, within Yell.com or within our database, we've got this amount of people. Let's make this approach to these people. And it's so much easier once the people you're communicating with understand that you're trying to identify a want and a need. And I keep repeating myself, but it's so important. If you get the want and the need bit right, then actually defining how you can provide a solution and help their business is really easy. And that's why most salespeople or people that don't understand sales, and why would you? Because I know what bookkeeping does, but I don't understand accountancy. Why should I? It's not my job.
Yeah.
That's but we can help people understand it better, and it's actually a lot simpler once you understand. And I'm guessing a bit like chess. The more you understand it and you practice it perfectly, and this is the right, not just practice the same thing. That's a definition of insanity somewhere.
Yeah, you've got to look for improvement, not just get bogged down in doing it the same way all the time. And I think with strategies, certainly with chess, you have to revisit a strategy if something starts to break down, if things aren't working going to plan. You don't just merrily plod ahead with the plan anyway and think, well, hopefully it'll all turn out all right in the end. I guess when we're thinking then about a sales strategy, at what point do we think actually we need to reassess this? We need to perhaps reevaluate or change our sales strategy?
Every stage. So if we take it as an A to Z, for example, or an A to wherever, each stage should have its own set of KPIs, key performance indicators. So at this stage, I wanted to do this. Have I achieved that? Why have I achieved it? Yes or no or maybe. Why? Do I need to tweak, change? Do I need to amend before I go on to B? I feel quite sad sometimes, Joe, is that I see so many people that have got a really sound strategy. Now that could be lead generation by Facebook marketing or email marketing, and that's a sound strategy, but it falls down because they're not evaluating it. And again, as a non-chess player, I can barely play drafts, but as a non-chess player, I now understand why people take so much time evaluating each move. And so that would be, I think, again, that's a perfect analogy about, about thinking about what you're doing, and then before you do it, there's a phrase in DIY, again, another one of my non-talents, which is in terms of if you're going to use a saw, measure twice and cut once.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. It's worth spending those few seconds sort of longer checking something. I mean, some of the greatest players have said, well, quite often when I look after the person's moved, I know what I'm going to do. And then the interviewer says, well, why do you then sit there for 20 minutes? Well, it's best to test it. I want to know whether it's really going to work, not to sort of do it on instinct. And yes, you can play speed chess and get away with it, but in business, if you do that sort of thing too much, it does risk leaving some holes.
and costing lots of money.
Absolutely,
because,
yeah, absolutely.
So for example, because person A, who may be in a similar field to you, has put the sales campaign together using this strategy, and it's worked for them, you can't just copy and paste. It's not like that. What you need to do is look at that, find out from them what worked, what didn't work so well, what they did to tweak, and I find, as you well know, Joe, if you collaborate with people, they'll be very open with you. Obviously not going to get that level of collaboration from direct competitors, but there will be others in the field who are doing what you're doing, and just ask for that support, go and find it, ask questions of people.
Yeah, I think it's that sort of dynamic approach that there isn't just a straight line from beginning to end. You're kind of going round in sort of cycles where, yeah, you are making progress forward, even though you are going back on yourself in some ways. Perhaps some people feel that it's a step backwards. You think, well, no, actually, you need to reassess to keep making that progress, because otherwise, you really do risk missing your targets if you're utterly unable to assess and evaluate your position on an ongoing basis. You're just relying on something you decided a year ago and hoping for the best, that all the situation is the same. But as we know now, I mean, here we sit sort of a year into a global pandemic. I mean, a year ago, we wouldn't have known we were going to be in this sort of situation. So if we'd put our plans in place and just stuck with that, well, problem.
Oh, absolutely. And it goes back to back to the first question. You need focus, you need consistency, but you need to be very open-minded as well. You need to almost challenge yourself before you do it. What's the best thing that can happen? What's the worst thing that can happen? Can I live with both of those outcomes? It's probably going to be somewhere in the middle. So And what am I going to learn from it? And that's where time to focus, and it's not time management, it's time prioritization. My view with sales within a business where perhaps you are the business owner and you're doing most of it yourself, you've got some experts helping you further down the line, is that you can't just pick it up and put it down. You know, you have to practice every day. You know, a marathon runner can't, a month before they run the marathon, start doing intensive 18 hours a day running to get that fit. They have to do a little bit and make it, and you mentioned earlier, make it incremental. So, and don't do it in big chunks. Don't, you know, if it's not something you're comfortable with or you enjoy doing, set yourself away 15 minutes, but set it away, put it in your diary. Don't just do it. It's not when I can, it's when I will. Prioritize that time. Pick yourself 2 15-minute slots a day, 5 days a week, 30. That's 2.5 hours a week that you're dedicating to sales planning and sales strategy. Whereas if you had to say, right, I'm going to do sales Friday afternoon, and I see this all the time, I say to people, so in terms of sales in your business, if you're driving most of those, when do you do that and how do you do it? Oh, I have a sales day. And I go, really? Does that work really well? Well, not really. Then others will say, well, to be truthful, I do a little and often. But again, I don't know whether this is true. Sometimes just having that 15 minutes, 30-minute absolute focus, you get more done than if you sit in front of a screen or a piece of paper for 2 hours trying to get that blinding inspiration that I haven't got and most of us haven't got. You know, those little pearls of wisdom come over time.
Yeah, and I think it's like, if you think of business as being a little bit like spinning plates, if you just stand there for a long time being very carefully spinning one of them, somewhere over there, something's going to come crashing down. And again, with chess, if you've got a position on the board and you get fascinated by that corner over there, well, what about the rest of it? You can't just do one bit at a time. You know, sometimes each area needs a little bit more focus. End of year accounts, perhaps you need to spend a bit more time on those at a particular time of year. But if you're not taking account of the whole and how that links together, well, everything's just totally bitty and you're relying on chance, really. That's not a coherent plan, is it?
And again, that's not strategic. The most successful business people that I come across are those people that spend some time every day working on the commercial side of their business, either with existing clients, building that relationship, or with prospecting, however you want to use those words, because it then becomes a very positive habit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And actually, selling's very much about process and good habits and all those. It's, what's the phrase? It's 95% perspiration and 5% inspiration. And that's why I get frustrated when people come up with, you know, the instant solution, because invariably it isn't.
No, absolutely. These sort of 5 steps to instant success are very rarely work. There's a lot more hard work and just repetition that goes into it. I mean, I suppose as well, some people might be tempted to think of sales, if we were thinking of it as a sort of a parallel to chess, that there's an opening stage where you perhaps get in to know your customer a little bit, the middle game, and then the end game. Well, you've made the sale. That's the end of the game, isn't it? What do you say to that?
I think that's probably where with the sales and chess analogy go massively apart. No, I don't. I think that's the beginning. Lifetime value. I think if you've managed to persuade somebody that they want and need your services, or they've told you they want and need their services, you've guided them towards that, you've done something, you've then got to deliver it properly. And again, so many people fall down, they make the sale, but don't deliver properly.
Right. Yeah.
And our expectations as consumers now, both personal and professional, have changed, you know, beyond anything. I've got a package coming from Royal Mail today between 10:13 and 2:13.
Right. Yeah. It's much more precise than it used to be.
Well, it used to be. We'll try and be there in the morning, but if we can't be there in the morning, we'll be there in the afternoon. So what do I do? Well, you need to sit in all day. My point is, you again, cliches and phrases, but I would think as we get to that stage, always over deliver and under promise and over deliver. That's so important.
Yeah.
So important. It is.
You know, it's that old sort of view of sales has been sort of pushing until you grab a sale, which we've talked about as being an inappropriate way of doing things. well, you haven't then got that lead back into the beginning again, because you've not developed a relationship. All you've done is created a scenario where somebody has probably felt bled dry and doesn't want to talk to you ever again.
I couldn't agree. I think the thing is again, I'm all about visualization. If you think of it as a ladder, if you think of you've gone on a journey with somebody and they, been together, and you've actually got to the bottom of the ladder, and at the bottom of the ladder, they've said yes to you, they become a customer.
Yeah.
But actually, the success is as you climb those rungs together. So from customer, they become a client, a repeat customer. From a client, they become an advocate. They use you. Then they become a trusted partner, and so on and so forth. It's called the loyalty ladder. You can search. But I would be looking and thinking, right, I've got to that stage with that customer now. What do I need to do to get to the next stage? And invariably, you've got to do something else other than just say, do you want to buy some more?
Yeah.
And it's understanding them and understanding their business and asking them. Again, these are cliches, but in the sales environment, before I do any work with anybody, I ask them what their return investment looks like for them. So if we're going to work together and you might spend X pounds with me, what would you want that to do? Some people will say it'll just save me time. So I'm not looking initially for a massive financial return. Some people will say, well, it'll help me emotionally. It'll mean that I can understand that how much time I need to focus. But others quite rightly will say, well, actually, if I'm going to do that on a sales campaign, if I'm going to spend £1,000, it needs to at least be 10. And that's not unreasonable, set of judgmental figures, because that's that sort of 10% that you probably do need to invest in your business in sales and marketing generally. So, but my point is it doesn't matter from the person presenting the selling opportunity, the relationship opportunity, know what you want. So if I was talking to you, Joe, I would be saying, what would you like to get out of this? There are no fixed term guarantees, but what we can do is make sure that all the things we do, the strategy we build, will take us much closer to what you want. And if you want it, you own it. And if you own it, you enjoy it.
Yeah, it's great. This has all been very, very helpful. I think
been a pleasure.
it just reiterates that we've got to invest ourselves. As if we are trying to be a salesperson, we've got to invest first. We invest our time, we invest our efforts in understanding the customer and in understanding what's going to help them. We can't expect them to just invest with us because we've got a nice little pattern. It's a kind of a mutual investment that then builds that relationship, if I'm understanding it correctly.
Completely, Joe. And yes, the more time you invest in your customers, the greater return for both of you. If you don't invest time in understanding your customers and their needs, their frustrations, their issues, their pain points, whatever it may well be, then what you do is you just become a product provider. Well, I've got a widget. You can have a widget. That widget will make that happen for you. Invariably doesn't.
Yeah. Not
in relationship selling. And I'm not saying that there are occasions for transactional selling, because otherwise people like Amazon won't be in business, would they?
Yeah, quite. Yeah, sometimes it's just you want a product and you just want, well, where's the most convenient place or where's the cheapest place to get that product? But in many cases with services especially, that just doesn't work.
No, and we've all got, outside of sales, but in terms, and it is sales delivery and relationships, we've all got dozens and dozens of examples of where we've identified somebody that we want to buy from in the services. Let's use the analogy, and apologies for any plumbers that are listening, plumbers, electricians, they're brilliant at making the sale, but then their service delivery is not where it was for a whole host of reasons. And that's why they still remain quite a small business. Those people that can see the value of, okay, I went round and fixed his tap for him because he's used as a DIY, that's me. Actually, the next time I need something else, which could be a shower fitted or whatever it may well be, who do I go? Do I start that journey again? Do I try and find a brand new supplier? Of course I don't. I think the last person I used for this set of services, what was the relationship like? Not what did it cost? What did I get out of that? What was my return investment? Did they turned up on time? They did a good job. I paid them on time. That's a great relationship. Yeah. Everyone's a winner.
Yeah.
Or did they say they were coming at 10 o'clock on Tuesday and didn't actually come till 11 o'clock on Wednesday? Oh, there's a negative point in my mind. Even if they might have been £1 cheaper, I'm thinking, oh, actually reliability is important to me. Ask your customers, what's most important to you in a relationship that we might have? And once they tell you, you just make sure you match those. And why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, and this feeds in as well too. I had a chat with Jamie Allen about data analysis recently. It feeds into that. Is that you've got to listen, you've got to gather this data, and then you've got to act upon it. And it's so important for understanding how our business is working properly, and for the sales process.
You're completely. I guess as we get towards the end, one piece of advice I would give anybody: if you're rushing into sales, don't.
Yeah, stop and think, and yeah.
Great.
Yeah, thank you very much, Glenn. That's all been very helpful. I hope people have managed to get a better understanding of sales and how that can integrate into the life of their business. So thanks once again, Glenn, and we hope you've enjoyed this video.
Thank you.